Good morning. How's everybody? Hanging in there, loving the weather. I love this weather. Like it's supposed to. I always laugh when they say it's gonna rain. Like, is it really, or are we gonna get like some mist? But it's supposed to like rain a fair amount tomorrow. We'll see. Like, fingers crossed. It said it could start today. Like, I always check our weather. Usually, it's very uneventful, right? But like, chance of rain, I'll take it. I love when it's like cold and not. It feels like we're getting into fall. There's like wind, you got a chance of rain. Halloween's in 2 weeks, right? All good things. So, nice to see you all. I was very excited for today because I got to drive here today for the first time in 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks today since my surgery, and I was cleared to drive. I felt like an adult again, right? It's wonderful being driven around by people. Like, it makes you feel very like little. So I'm very excited to be grown up again. I could drive and listen to my own music.
Well, like, I don't feel like that. It's like, given how I kind of feel about like some of the stuff, it's like, given how like the feeling of like public transportation, it's like, I don't mind being driven around by someone else.
Yeah, compared to public transportation, definitely better. But listening to your own music when you're driving yourself, much nicer than your in-laws driving you places. I love my mother-in-law to death. She's very sweet. But I'm grateful to drive myself today. Anyway, we have a full week this week, which is nice. We have Monday and Wednesday. We will keep going with orientation today. And then when I see you on Wednesday, chapters 3 and 7 are next, which are communication, love, and intimacy. I think kind of fun ones, talking about like stereotypes of communicating and like male, female stereotypical communication, and then types of love and things like that. Really, I think kind of fun chapters as well. So we left off here, right? So we were talking last time, we spent a lot of time talking about like what is orientation, again, remember, on a spectrum, and then that we don't really have a satisfactory explanation for what causes or leads to somebody's orientation as it stands today. And that kind of makes the statistics a little blurry, as we were talking about, that it's hard to get an accurate estimate of where people lie. And because your orientation is always changing potentially, that could make it tricky as well. But what we'll look at today are some of the like kind of things related to like attitudes and legislation and treatments in the past and things like that as we kind of progress through. So when it comes to identifying as a minority in any category, right, whether that's age or race or ethnicity, or in our case, orientation, oftentimes that comes with some prejudice and discrimination, right? And so that is definitely the case when we look at historically, and even through now, people who identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, asexual even, oftentimes facing some marginalization, prejudice, and negative attitudes that are fairly entrenched in like our cultural and political systems. And so what we'll look at, there's been a lot of things over time, some of them older, some of them fairly recent, but we'll look at some of those big pieces of like legislation and discrimination. In general, we could call all of this like homophobia. Okay, so phobias are when you have an irrational fear of something, which can be anything. You can have a phobia of anything, right? In this case, homophobia is the irrational fear of homosexuality. Okay, and phobias are by definition just something interesting to kind of weigh, an irrational fear. That's the definition of a phobia, right? And so what we see here is not only like a loathing or fear of people who identify this way, but sometimes a loathing or a fear of the potential of it occurring in yourself. Can kind of go both ways. So just kind of an interesting side note. When we look at homophobia in our country, and we'll just focus on our country, so the nearest statistic I have is about 6 years old, right? And statistics are always that way, right? They're always a few years behind. In 2019, 1,279 gay and lesbian individuals were victims of hate crimes in the United States, which resulted in death or serious injury. Okay, so a hate crime is kind of an extreme form of homophobia. Homophobia can take the form of like discomfort, stereotypes, negative attitudes, or even something a little more violent like a hate crime, typically a criminal offense involving violence, intimidation, or vandalism in which somebody is attacking you because of your affiliation with a group. Now, you can be a victim of a hate crime because of your race, your age, your level of ability, your gender. It could be anything. In this case, we're talking about your orientation. So in our country, if we go back like 5, 6 years, not 6 or 7 years, but 5 or 6 years. I'm trying to go with that now. My soccer team, they're always like, everything is 6, 7, right? But did I tell you that my Halloween costume is 6, 7? Did I tell you that? No? Okay. So my partner and I coach 2 soccer teams, right, from our 2 kids. And so I'm gonna be number 6 and she's gonna be number 7. We got custom jerseys made so that we can spend the whole day going like this to our kids. I think it's gonna be funny. I hope they think it's funny because
All this, like, again, I just have to ask, all the 6, 7
it's
stuff.
like a whole like thing. You can look up like the origin of it. Like I don't know. I'm not sure that there's anything worth actually sharing, but it is a thing, right? So I'm gonna be number 6 and she's gonna be number 7. Oh, I'll take pictures for sure. Right? I'd be happy to share it with you, right? But so again, like a few years back, we're looking at a lot of people. Right, so let's look at some of the examples of like homophobia in our country. Some are old, some are new, kind of mixed, right? So here are a few on this slide. Okay, so one of the most recent, the Don't Say Gay bill, right, passed. This was just last year. Okay, so this is very recent. Was it last? Yeah, it's the very end of last year, right? So the Don't Say Gay bill passed in Florida and was in multiple other states, where basically in any kind of, you can't mention anything related to orientation in schools. It's enough to be fired, right? Especially in Florida. If you teach or have any kind of propaganda up, you're instantly able to be fired for no reason. You're not allowed to talk about anything related to orientation in a supportive way in schools. That's probably the most recent. There's a lot of legislation still right now in like a very current way related to this. Go back a little bit farther, the Pulse nightclub, kind of another very like, this one was 2016, I believe, where 49 people were gunned down and another 53 more injured at an LGBTQ club in Florida. Some older things that are very common. This was a big one here. I lived in Reseda at the time. There's that Chick-fil-A on Tampa right there in Reseda. And they had this whole thing. So 2012. Okay, so that's a little bit back, but it's still something like there are a lot of organizations that are very anti-LGBTQIA plus whatever. And Chick-fil-A is one of them, very religious organization. Which is sad because they have like really delicious chicken. We don't go there as a family because we don't want to support them. But that's sad. That's tough. So I have to go to like Raising Cane's or something instead. I know my chicken places. But on that day, they had a whole day where every penny that they earned went to fight LGBTQ rights. And on that day, they had 367 more customers than per store than average across like the country. So all the people went to that store to raise money, raise awareness. The lines were out the door. I remember driving by it on that day going like, what's happening? The LGBTQ community the day after decided to have a national kiss-in at Chick-fil-A, which was kind of funny. And so they flooded the stores and went and made out in them just to raise awareness. Which again, kind of funny. Lots of companies.
Honestly, I'm like one of those people where it's like, oh yeah, I'll happily take all of this stuff out of spite. I'll like if they're offering stuff, I'll take it out of spite.
Yeah, right. I mean, and again, I'm just trying to give you some examples. There's so many. I just picked ones that were like more like well known. Lots of companies very anti-LGBTQ, like Berea, the pasta company. They won't. So like they said, I would never do an advertisement with a homosexual family. If the gays don't like it, they can eat another brand. There's a bunch of different like companies, brands, stores, restaurants that are very, very anti-LGBTQ, right? And so the idea is to kind of know who you're supporting, right? And so like you then make choices, and we do this with all sorts of companies. Like a lot of people banned Target like last year, early this year, because of their decisions that they were making, right? A lot of people ban companies or don't support them because there are a lot of like agendas that are present. These are all examples of homophobia on political to smaller to like company level. More examples. This one's really old, but it was very popular for a long, long time. Definitely a term to be aware of. Sodomy laws. Okay, so sodomy laws existed in 14 states until 2003. So thankfully, we're looking at some time here. But what they did is you could be arrested for having any kind of homosexual relationship, and even something private in your home would be warrant for you to be arrested or fined up to $10,000. You could go to jail. Now you have to ask yourself, how would anyone know? If you're in your home, neighbors would report each other. This could technically be for heterosexual and homosexual couples, though it was very disproportionately enforced. This term comes from like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? The two cities of like sin that are referenced in the Bible, kind of related to things of like different kind of sexuality outside of marriage. But it comes from those cities which were deemed cities of sin and wickedness. But all the way up until 2003, you could see, and those are the states that are like deep red. You could go to jail or be fined like up to $10,000 for being caught in a same-sex relationship, right? So these were very popularly enforced for a very long time. You could see California was struck down back in the 80s. So depending on where you live, it would be different from state to state. But just another example, again, of like systemic levels of homophobia. Another one, same-sex marriage, and this is one that has been back in like politics again, right? Kind of looking at whether or not this will be upheld again as of right now, right? So if we go back with this one, same-sex marriage is complicated in our country and has been for a long time. I'm not a lawyer, but I'll give you the best legal rundown that I can of this. So up until 1996, there was something called DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act. This was a federally recognized act across the United States that defined marriage as between a man and a woman, right? That marriage could only be between men and women. Now, this is something that might make a comeback. It has been very much in like politics and like legal discussions now. But in 1996, this was something that was struck down. It was declared that same-sex couples should be able to legally get married as well. And so what we saw was that we kind of like repealed this act. There was a whole thing where like the White House was lit up as a rainbow to like celebrate this. And then it was deemed that every state had the right to decide what people should be able to do. So each state would decide, but federally it would be recognized. So in 2008, California decided that we would allow same-sex marriage. It was passed. People flooded to the courthouses, got married, but then it was just deemed to be unconstitutional. So they reversed it and all those marriages didn't count. And then in 2013, they passed it again and it's been passed ever since. So even in our state, we've gone back and forth and back and forth. Up until 2013, you could marry your second cousin in California, but not a same-sex partner, right? Just let that like kind of sink in. You could marry a pet, but not a same-sex partner, right? Like, yeah.
I feel like it's the thing of like, oh, you can marry your cousin. It feels like, oh wow, I wonder who voted for that.
Yeah, and people even tried to marry items of food, which was legally more accepted than it was to marry a same-sex partner up until 2013. Really bizarre, like the things that people were doing. And so in 2013 in California, it was deemed that you could marry a same-sex partner. Now, the United States, it has been legal nationwide since June of 2015. Okay, so in June 2015, the Supreme Court ruled that a ban on same-sex marriage was unconstitutional. So since 2015, across the United States, it was legal to marry and have it be recognized. So what this means, marriage, right, like, is an interesting, like, institution, if you will. Like, if you are legally married to a partner, it gives you a lot of rights. If that person goes into the hospital, you can visit them. You can file your taxes together. You can be on a birth certificate to have a child together. It gives you rights over their like medical decisions, their financial like decisions, and so on. So if you're not married to someone, legally, you have no legal rights over them. Okay, so let's say you and your like partner that aren't married, if they get into an accident and go in the hospital, you could be denied visitation rights. They could say, well, you're nobody to them, like you're not legally related, so you can't come in. Or like if you want to file your taxes together, you can't. So even if you're in like a heterosexual relationship where you've been together a long time, you don't have legal rights over that person. Marriage gives you that legal right. So by not having it be legal from state to state, let's say that you and your partner are married in California and you go to Florida on vacation and one of you gets in an accident, you have no rights over that person. Okay, so that was the big problem, is that people weren't able to have these legally like shared rights with a partner. But in 2015, that became like null and void. Now, as I mentioned, this has come up again recently. There was another act, the Respect for Marriage Act, back in 2022, trying to like safeguard this, because as it stands right now, a lot of states are trying to ban it again, right? And so it's something that has come up again in like recent politics. But this one has been complicated for years. But when you're legally married to someone, you have a lot of shared rights. And this can be a problem that like people who are gay, straight, like it depends on your relationship status. It can be tricky for people, right? So like we have kids, for example, right? And we're on their birth certificate. So that keeps us a little bit safe. It was so nice. They put me, they let me be dad on the birth certificate, which is really like kind of cool because that's my role in our family. But if I wasn't on the birth certificate, I'd have no legal rights to my children. Right. And so that's where it starts to get tricky, especially when you bring kids into it, finances into it, healthcare into it. So this is one that has a very complicated history and present within our country. Any like thoughts or comments or questions or anything here? I won't ask you years, but just know that it's been something that's gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth throughout our country. Yeah.
I guess this is a little story. But it's relevant. I get out to my like parents like a couple days ago, and they were talking about how like they think that being gay is a choice, and it's like you choose that lifestyle.
Sure.
And I was trying to tell them that if it was a choice, many people wouldn't want to do it
because of all this stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like being gay with like it's like again, it's like one of those stuff where it's like if being gay was a choice, then why do some people feel so restricted by that choice?
Yeah.
Like why would people want to intentionally feel that why would people want to intentionally feel that like sense of repression?
Sure. And you can tell your parents, right? Again, to date, we don't know, right? Like, but a lot of people do feel that it is a choice, right? Well, you chose your partner, whoever your partner is, you chose them. So you clearly chose this, right? And the implications of that make it so hard, right? Like if it were truly just a choice, a lot of people would be like, oh, hell no, why would I pick that, right? Like, why would I pick the road where I don't have as many rights, where people are mean to me, there's homophobia, there's mental health correlates, which we'll get to next, right? But it's tricky. A lot of people still really believe that it is a choice. And I'm sorry, I'm sure that was like not fun on your end, right? And that's a really common response. Well, it's a choice, so choose differently, right?
Also, this is like it just reminds me of this very weird thing where it's like surprisingly there's a lot of animals that do participate in homosexual acts.
Yeah, it occurs a lot in animal species as well.
Yeah, and it just like kind of just like spits in the and it's just like actively spits in the face of like how like some people say like, oh, it's not natural. It's very natural.
It occurs a lot in
like, a matter of fact, if I were trying to explain this to an someone like an evangelical, I would say it's God's way of maintaining the population. It's God's way of maintaining the population without violence.
Yeah, it's interesting because again, we don't know, right? And so we can look at animal like populations, we can look at people, we can look at trends, but we don't know, right? Was there another hand or two? Were there any other thoughts or sorry? I wasn't sure if
Um,
or do you have any more that you want to?
Go back to the slide before that,
I just did, yeah, this one.
or no, like before that too.
Oh, yeah, and remember they're on, Canvas too, if you need them. Did you?
Well,
Oh, wait, I didn't realize I didn't get.
I was just gonna say that they were like talking about how it's also like religion.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lot of connection to religion, right? And that's where you see a lot of the states that are more narrow are typically more like religiously populated, more like Republican dominated, right? And you can see that it looks a lot like an electoral map, right? Like you see those kind of correlations there and the correlation with religion and like politics, all of it being very connected. Right? And again, it makes it hard for a lot of people, which leads to the next one, right? Where there are a lot of connections to mental health struggles for people who identify as like gay or lesbian as well, right? So when we look at like not only social, but political, religious marginalization, it correlates to high rates of depression, suicidality, bullying, substance abuse. These are things that are very commonly high in populations that are like LGBTQ and so on. Homosexuality was viewed as a mental illness up until 1973. So until 1973, in the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders and so on, the DSM, up until 1973, it was a mental illness. You could be diagnosed as having a disorder if you were gay or lesbian, okay? And it required treatment, right? And so there were people who would like come in and try and treat you through therapy and other things for identifying this way. If you remember, best researcher name ever for this class, Evelyn Hooker, was the one who kind of helped remove this from the DSM through her research. But it was very popular even through the 80s and 90s. It was just done in a very underground way to do what was called conversion or sexual reorientation therapy. So it was thought, because it was a choice potentially, right, that you could then do therapy to change somebody's orientation, almost like you could flip a switch of like gay, not gay, right? And so there were all these places where people went where they were either tried to be reconditioned or even worse, typically with men, what would happen is they would hook a man's penis up to different measuring instruments. If they became aroused at looking at pictures of other men, they would shock them. And it was thought that we could reorient you through shocking you if you became aroused. So it would measure blood flow. If a man got an erection looking at pictures of men, they would deliver an electric shock to his penis to punish him in hopes that it would recondition him. Now, it would work in the conditioning environment, but then when people left and that wasn't present anymore, it would fall apart. Yeah.
Yeah, it would fall apart and likely even cause even more issues,
Of course.
probably a negative reaction to all men, which would probably again, something about their attraction, it could lead to something where it's they just start acting out in regular situations. So it's
Yeah,
if it's
possible.
at work, they could just start cowering in fear.
Well, lead to other mental health issues, right? You're
Yeah.
shocking someone for their attraction. And sometimes we even react to things that we're not necessarily attracted to. We still have a reaction and people would be shocked for it. Yeah, you had your hand up.
Has it ever worked?
No, I mean, so it works in the short run, right? Like when you're looking at these pictures, people could stop responding. But then when they would leave that environment and go back out into the world, it didn't change the emotional response, just the physical one in the short term. But I mean, people would stop reacting to the pictures, and they were like, "Oh, success! See, we can change it." But then they would go out and it would fall apart.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's
Other things to sort of triggers
Yeah.
on somebody.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Very common in the 80s and 90s, even though it was no longer considered a mental illness. Parents would send their teenagers to camps where they were conditioned through very operant conditioning techniques, like rewards and punishments. They were conditioned to learn appropriate behaviors. If any of you have ever seen the movie But I'm a Cheerleader, the whole movie, I have a clip from it, I'll show you in a minute. The whole movie is geared about this, right? So that's the name of the movie. I'll play it for you. It's a comedy, but it's dealing with things that are very not funny, right? So this girl, they accuse her of being gay or being lesbian, and she's like, but I'm a cheerleader. Like, no, I'm a cheerleader. Like, I can't be, right? As if that would exclude her somehow. And so they send her to this reorientation camp. They have a whole oh my gosh, it's intervention, right? Where they accuse her, they give her evidence to show that she's gay. You like tofu, right? And you have all these things, right? Like you have pictures of women, you don't like kissing your boyfriend. Then they send her to a camp where they literally put her in a room with a bunch of other lesbians and be like, we're going to teach you to be straight. She ends up falling in love with a girl. It's a great movie, right? I would recommend it.
That's like, again, it's like one of those stuff where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this thing and
Right.
stuff like that. And it's like, oh yeah, you're also all like the pink bedroom and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. It's very gender based, right? So again, in the
And it's
movie,
like-
they're making fun of this in the movie, but there's also the undertones of like this was a real thing a lot of people went through, as if you could just like flip the switch. And so a lot of the assumptions that they're making is like, men who are flamboyant, well, we need to teach you to be a real man and then you won't be gay anymore, right? And so it's like they take all these really like effeminate men and try and teach them how to use an axe and how to be like a real guy. And they try to teach the women how to change diapers and cook,
yeah,
as if that would change it,
I think it's like, I thought. I think the best way to describe it is that there's like this one point in the game where it's like a character just started saying, "Oh yeah, my dad taught me to throw knives because he thought it'd make me less gay. Now I know that. Now I know how to suck dick and throw knives."
Right. I mean, yeah, right. Like the assumption that just changing your gender identity could change your preferences is kind of something they play with throughout that movie. But again, this was something that a lot of people went through, and it was very hidden in the 90s and early 2000s. Because it was deemed to be completely unethical to do. In 2009, the APA, the American Psychological Association, deemed this unethical. Okay, so it became illegal in a sense in 2009. But that wasn't that long ago, right? Like, I mean, so this was something that was still practiced. It is still covertly done, but like there were camps all the way up until then. Now what therapists tend to do is more like gay affirmative therapy, just therapy, right? So if somebody who identifies as gay or lesbian or bisexual goes to therapy, it's a lot of like, well, how do we deal with the struggles that you're having of like, things that your parents say to you when you come out to them, like you were sharing, or like, how do you deal with like, like finding your way or finding your identity? It's more of that kind of stuff. Dealing with the negativity rather than like, how do we change you? But this movie, if you're interested, that's the name of it. The whole thing is kind of like what this looked like for a lot of people for many years. Yeah.
So, for example, would you recommend them personally also with a therapist?
Ooh, that is a personal preference.
Or
That's interesting.
Or do you find it's like, I don't know, I guess like the same if there's go to the street therapist.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of up to the person, right? So, and you're in my abnormal psych class that meets before this, like, and I've shared in there, I've gone to therapy since I was like 6 months old. My parents believed in therapy. I was almost a therapist. I'm trained as a marriage and family therapist. I've been going to therapy since I could cry at like ink blots, right? Like I'm pretty sure. And I still go to therapy every week. My therapist is a heterosexual, white, religious, like woman. I was terrified that we would not be okay. And she is like so kind and accepting, and like she might not actually feel that way in her real life. I would never know. I'll never know. But she's very like warm and kind and like has been a great person for me. Not like as heterosexual and religious and conservative as they come, and we've been fine. Right. So for me, that works. But for other people, it might be you want someone who understands, right? Because I guarantee you she will never know the pain that I feel of like how people judge me or how our relationship isn't accepted. She'll never get that. But I'm okay with that because she's happy to listen and like talk about it with me. So I think it ultimately comes down to the person. A lot of people like when they have someone who understands what they've been through. For me, it didn't matter. As long as she was accepting like of it, I was fine with it. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Would you rather somebody like who understood? Like, how many of you would rather somebody who's similar to you by show of hands? Okay, and doesn't matter on the other side? Okay, so we have a couple there, more on the one, like, I think most people tend to prefer the like, you get it. But it's kind of like, I think it's kind of up to you. So far it's been okay. It's been 5 years, so hopefully at this point we're good, right? But any other like comments on that? I mean, any thoughts, reactions, comments related to that? I mean, I think therapy, if I step back into the other class, right, I think therapy can be helpful in general for anyone. It's just like a neutral person to talk to. I mean, it's too bad that it costs money, right? But it's nice to have a neutral source of support. Sometimes it's nice to have someone who gets it, right? I had a therapist when I was a teenager who was a gay man, and I actually found it obnoxious that because he would always be like, well, in my experience, I'm like, I don't care about your experience. I was 16. I'm like, I don't care about your experience at all, right? Like now I might find that interesting, but at the time I found it annoying, right? So, okay, before I talk about the next slide, I have a little activity that we're gonna do. You need a piece of paper that you're gonna turn in. It can even be a half a piece of paper, but write your first and last name on it. You're gonna turn it in to me in a moment. And I'm gonna have you write a couple of things on it. Okay, so I'll give you a second. Again, it can be a scratch piece of paper, just something you can turn in with your first and last name on it. Can even be a half piece. You're not gonna write a lot on there, but I am gonna have you turn it in. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So piece of paper can, like I said, it can even be a half piece of paper. So you're turning in your own sheets, but you are gonna be working with someone else in a minute, but turn in your own piece of paper. And it can even be a little paper, that's fine too, it doesn't matter. All right. Everyone has one. Okay, so on your piece of paper, write your first and last name, so I can give you points, because it's an activity. But then what I want you to do is I want you to write like 4 to 6. Okay, so 5 if you want the middle number, but like 4 to 6 things that are really important to you in your life. So they can be items, they can be roles that you're in, it can be anything that's important to you in your life, like 4 to 6 things. So for example, if I had to write things, I would write like my partner, my kids, let's say food, I would probably put up there. Like I really love sports, my job, like things that are important to you in your life. They can be roles, they can be people, they can be items. But things that are my pets, put my cats up there, like they would make the 5, right? But 4 to 6 things that are important to you in your life. And I'll give you a moment. They should be things that come quickly, right? Because they're important, they're big. Could be a partner, a friend, anything. Don't write more than 6 or your life will be hard. Give you just another minute, then I'll tell you the next part. All right, everyone got your stuff? Anyone need more time? Again, there should be things that come quick, right? They're big things. Now thinking about my cats and food, like all the good things, right? My kids. I put my kids first. They should be cool, right? Then. Okay. So what I want you to do, you need a partner. Okay, and ideally I'd like it to be someone you don't know. I know a couple of you like know each other. If you know your like person sitting next to you, try and choose somebody else. Otherwise it makes it a little tricky. There's an odd number, so we could have one group of 3. That's totally fine. Or you can have a group of 3 if that's just easy, right? That's totally fine. But find a partner or like 2 people, so 2 or 3 people total. Right? So find somebody next to like you two could go, right, like, you have three here, whatever, I'll give you a second, find a group of 2 or 3 people. You're gonna sit next to them for a minute, so if you wanna get up and like find each other, then we're. You're conveniently located, right? And you could do the 3 of you, that's fine too, or like, again, it can be 2 or 3 people, you just don't want it to be bigger. Brendan, you just looking to see too if you, got a partner? Okay. That work? Is everyone? Okay. Everybody have a buddy or buddies? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. And again, if you know each other, it's kind of cheating, so try to break it up. But I want you to take a couple of minutes and introduce yourself to your partner or partners. But you cannot mention anything that you wrote down on a piece of paper. Okay, so like 2 minutes, introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about you, but don't talk about anything that you just wrote down. Right? I'm sorry in advance. Okay, and then after like 2 minutes or so, switch and have them introduce. So I'll give you a few minutes because some of you have 3, but tell them about yourself. Like share your name. Obviously, you can share that, but like, I know you wrote that on your paper. You can share that. Right? Your name and a little bit about yourself. Just nothing you wrote on your piece of paper. Okay? Okay, go ahead. Of course, we just started an activity. You can see if you can join up with them really quickly so that you can still be part of it.
Do you also have brown eyes?
It's like, yeah, a job. It's like, it's a big deal. We're supposed to get. I mean, it's nice.
There's a lot of stuff I feel like would like.
Like very, very.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I mean, I don't like that. I'm sorry. By not mentioning the.
Yeah.
If you want to do that little. You can even add it. Let's just add it.
No, it's always like
I'm gonna give you just another minute or so, then we can talk about it.
Rose fantasizing right now. I'm actually fantasizing about.
Yeah.
No.
I said that was good. Change my mind. Yeah. I got it.
Yeah, I saw.
You read on my, hang out.
Fine, anybody need more? Or do you want me to end it? Okay, so was that easy, difficult? I saw a lot of you looking at your paper like multiple times, like you were looking at your list, like double checking, right? How did that go? Yeah.
I messed up because I put work and school on my list.
Oh,
They're important because they're important.
right, right. They're big parts,
They're not
right?
Things in my. So I didn't.
Yeah.
You did do it.
Like, oops, I couldn't have mentioned that, right? Okay, right, yeah, and like they could be just big things, even if they're not important, right? Other thoughts? Was that easy, or were you like struggling with things? Like I saw you two sat quietly for a few minutes, like.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like once you get like past like some of the basic stuff, it's like I feel it's like one of the stuff that's like, I could like not touch it if I just like don't elaborate.
Okay,
Like,
Right,
it's one of those
okay.
stuff where it's like, if I be big enough, it's some stuff, like I feel like, like, is it a thing that you like continue on, or gonna have to write more stuff, or can I just like kind of say to some of them like, what one of the things that are on my thing?
yeah,
One of the ones I have, like, well, one's mental well-being, so it's like, and when we're talking about video games, it's like, one of the games I like is stuff that really kind of relaxes you, or
so you can kind of get around it a little bit.
occupy your mind, and it's like, yeah, those are like specific games I like, so it's like, but since it's a tie to that, I could, well, elaborate on it.
Yeah.
I could just say I like video games, but I couldn't really elaborate.
Sure, sure. Did you other people find ways to kind of get around it like that too? Like, well, if I'm vague or if I don't mention the specific, I can kind of get there. Like, if I had to introduce myself to someone and I couldn't talk about my family, I couldn't talk about my kids, my pets, sports, and food, or my like work, like was my other thing. I would probably be like, so it's supposed to rain tomorrow. I would struggle. Like I could get there, but I would struggle a little bit, right? And sometimes people kind of find ways around. So the idea here was to parallel what it's like to not be able to talk about things that are important, right? And that's often someone who hasn't come out, who isn't open about their sexuality. Can make it really hard to talk about your life with people when you can't talk about things that are very like, yeah, if you want to go back to your spots, you can go back to your.
Sorry, it's like, I just wanted to know, like, should I you want me to go back?
Go back to your chair if you would like, or you can stay. Yeah, so I'll collect that from you, I'll collect that from you at the end. But the extent to which you're like open about your orientation can really dictate like how much you can share about your life. And sometimes people cheat, right? Like they say the wrong pronoun, right? Like, oh, my partner cheats all the time, right? Like, so my partner that sounded bad, right? Like cheats with this. I'm like, wait a minute, I should clarify. So my partner teaches high school English at Royal, okay? And I've had a couple of her students who like, look, they're like, wait, you're Leah Setmire's husband? Wait, I'm confused. So in our house, I go by dad, I'm husband. And so when she talks about me to her students, that my husband, blah, 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 my husband, whatever, right? And like, we'll use the pronoun of he. And so they just fill in the blanks. And there are pictures of me everywhere in the room. If you look closely, it's real obvious, right? Like, but her students oftentimes are like, oh, like, and I've had 4 students of hers over time. And it's such a funny moment. They'll come up to me and be like, wait, you're Miss Setmire's husband? I'm like, uh-huh. Right? Like click, and all comes together. But she doesn't feel safe letting them know because she's a high school teacher, right? 1, she doesn't want to push any kind of like agenda or make them uncomfortable. But 2, like there are still times where it's not always safe to be 100% out. So she fudges a little bit on the like role, but she's being honest because I am husband in our house, right? Like, so it's kind of a funny moment. But people will oftentimes do that. They change he to she, or they are vague and say partner, right, as a way to get around it. But the extent to which you have come out or are open can change a lot about your life. right? And there are times where maybe it doesn't feel safe for your job or your friends or your family or whoever, right? And so this term that we have, interesting, of coming out of the closet. You heard that term before, where it's like, the stereotype is that it's like some grand exit out of the closet where you open the closet door and you're like, ta-da, I'm gay, right? Like, and that's it, it's done. Okay, the metaphor comes from the idea of having skeletons in the closet. Having skeletons in the closet means you're hiding something. And so if you air out your skeletons, you let them out of the closet, you have released your secrets to the world. That's where the metaphor comes from. But rather than one big, like, grand coming out of the closet, you have to decide this with every single person that you meet. Every person that you meet, am I going to be honest? Am I going to be like revealing? Am I going to tell them the truth? Right? And so it's a lot of little coming outs. A lot of people will pass in some way. It might be that you, as a teenager or as a young adult, pretend to date somebody because you don't want your parents to know or suspect. It might be that you change pronouns of a partner because you don't want somebody to know, or you don't dress or act the way that you want because you don't want someone to know. And other people are very comfortable with it, and they're out and they're open, and it can kind of be all over the place. Okay, so I didn't come out like until I went to college, right? Like my parents told me all the way through my teen years that I was gay. They're like, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay. And I'm like, stop saying that. Why? Like, I have a boyfriend named Josh. Right? Like, I'm not gay, right? Like, I mean, who cares that I was in love with my best friend that was a girl? I had a boyfriend named Josh. I was straight. Damn it, right? Like, and so like that was my version of passing, and I didn't even know at the time, right? But when I went away to college, it was like I felt like it was okay, and I came out, and like my parents were like, "See, told you," and I was like, I wasn't ready. Stop like forcing it on me, right? But this is something that a lot of people have to choose. And October is actually National Coming Out Month. Right. There's a National Coming Out Day. It's usually, I thought it was today. Actually, it's usually the 13th. I know someone could look it up. It's usually the 13th of October or somewhere in that range. And sometimes we've even had events. Yeah, if you find it, let me know, right? You look like you're on a mission.
Yeah.
Find it for me. It's usually this week, actually. And so
Saturday.
what was that?
It was Saturday.
It was Saturday. Okay. So it was close. So you could still do it if you wanted to. Right? But that's where the metaphor comes from of coming out of the closet. And again, a lot of people feel a need to pass to be okay with their jobs, their friends, their families, and whatever. Okay. Any like thoughts or comments, anything about the exercise or about coming out or any of that? Thoughts, comments, stories? Yeah. As if that would be it, right? Like you wanted my heels, clearly. Yeah, right. And then like thankfully, like open and like, good about it. That's like you were saying, it's not always the case, right? Like this weekend for you, like being like, well, it's a choice, and like being hard. Like the experiences with that are all over the place. Yeah.
My mom had the same thing. I was like, and about what?
About what? I know, right? Yeah, I know, right? That's funny, right? About what, did you kill somebody? What happened, right? Like, you're like, no, And my daughter every 2 days is like, I'm gay, I'm gay. We're like, no, you're not. No, but like on the opposite side, we're like, no, you're just bi-curious, right? She's 11. I'm like, you're nothing right now. Like, don't you look at anyone, you're 11, like, yeah.
My mother said that, so I have a twin, and she said that won't be my brother. She had vision thought about that, so we can
Okay, interesting, right?
came out, she was like,
Oh,
so you're the one.
it's you. I've decided it's you. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, when I first got Mom, come here, like I made her constant. And she was like, what do you want from me, Mom? And she was like, what? Hey, she was like, well, there's a big ass flag on top of your ceiling. She's like, so I don't know enough to find it there.
She's like, I've known for years, right?
She's like, she's like, they people that help. And I was like, well, listen, I'm going to hell. We
Right.
just laughed. I was like, looks like your daughter is going to hell. Remember, Mom, you created me. And she's like, you're right. I was like, yeah.
I'll see you there, right?
Yeah.
Got my hand basket with s'more stuff packed. Let's go, right? Like that. Yeah, and like funny, but not,
No,
right?
yeah.
Like,
So I'm like, I know, because I know she's like,
she respects everyone, you know, she's not going to be like, I hate all gay people, but she's like, behind closed doors, she's like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And the layers of it, right? How tricky it can be. I mean, like my first partner, we pretended I was interested in her brother. Right? And so her parents were always like, you and Patrick, like you and Patrick would make such a cute couple. And Patrick was in on the whole thing. He knew his sister was gay. He knew that we were together. And so he'd flirt with me and I'd flirt back with him. And his parents were like so happy about Patrick and I and our future. And they were like, when you two get married one day, and we just laughed. But I'm like, I'm into Patrick's sister, but whatever. No one needs to know that. And then when they found out, they cried. They were like, but what about Patrick? I'm like, Patrick, is Patrick okay? And I'm like, Patrick was in on the whole thing. Patrick is just fine.
And that's like, it just kind of reminds me of this. It's this weird stuff where it's like, where it just reminds me of this weird thing of like, where it's like, I think it's like they just got completely caught off guard by just like, oh yes, like, oh yes, they're completely straight, they're no left, and it's like, oh yeah, they've been gay, but it's like, oh yeah, they've been completely on it, and it's like, oh yeah, you were completely out of the loop.
Right, completely. And poor Patrick, right? He was just fine. Yeah.
You go back to the
Oh, sorry.
sexuality slide.
Oh yeah, I will in a minute. Yeah, here it goes.
We're gonna be like, now, the reason why I did it was because they were openly homophobic and it made me uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
I was like, I need to stop so
Right.
understand.
Yeah.
But they were like, we'll just be more aware with them.
Okay. Yeah, right. And so the environment that you're living in, like, can play a big part in like why you come out, how you come out, how comfortable it is. I mean, I've had a lot of people I've known have been kicked out of houses because they came out. And like I was great. Mine was more annoying than my mom, I think, just wanted someone to be gay. Like she was bisexual her whole life and like never explored it. So she wanted someone who was gay. And so like forever it was like, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay. I'm like, why are you insulting me? Like, stop it. Because I had an aunt who was gay and she was like into drugs and was promiscuous. And I was like, why are you calling me Aunt Betsy? Like, what's wrong? I don't want to be that person, right? And because I didn't know what it meant. Your environment at home and like the environment they create, like it shapes so much, right? And it's not always a positive thing. It's not always a negative thing. It's all over the place. And again, it's not just that one environment either. It's everybody that you meet, right? Everyone you meet. Yeah.
When I was, I think 16, I came out to my dad as lesbian. I was not a lesbian, but I thought I was.
Okay.
And he was like, I know.
I know.
Okay.
Right.
So now I have to come out to him and my entire family again.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm trans.
Another time, right? They're like, wait, no, you already had your one coming out. No more, right? Right? You can't come out more than once. Well, yeah, you can, right? And you can change it the next day. Just kidding, not anymore, right? Like the whole thing, it's so complicated and it's something that a lot of people have to go through at some point, right? Be interesting to go through it now with like my children. I'm waiting for them to all one day come out to me, like, or not come out to me. Like, I think one of mine is totally asexual. I think she'll just like live her whole life alone in a room somewhere watching Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, I can see that. And like my other one only cares about food, and my other one is like obsessed with everything. So I'm like, I can't wait to be on the other side of it at some point. Be like, yeah, I know, right? But I'm not going to force it on you. I'm not going to make you pretend like with Patrick. Right? I have a slide specific to bisexuality. Oftentimes this is absorbed into the umbrella, right? LGB, that's the B, bisexuality, right? And so what's interesting is this group has its own like marginalization, its own stereotypes, its own everything, but it's often kind of absorbed. Bisexuality traditionally is defined as you could go either way, both one or the other and or both. It could like it's defined in a lot of different ways, interestingly. So bisexuality typically is someone who's attracted to members of either sex. Okay, now different than pansexual, which is a very like common term now. Pansexual tends to be you're attracted to the person regardless of their sex. This is you are attracted to either or, right? You like both sexes, hence the bi element too, right? They tend to like to define different types of bisexuality. Again, it's like, let's create a box and then little boxes within the box, right? But sequential, contemporaneous, and situational are the three that are often recognized. It's kind of a silly concept in a sense, but it is like talked about in your textbook. Sequential means that you're with one and then the other, right? Like one after the other. So you are with men and then you're with a woman and then you're with a man and then you're with a woman, right? Like one in sequence after the other, but exclusive to one type or one sex at a time. Okay, so you've been in a relationship with a woman and then you're in a relationship with a man, but you're not drawn to either at the same time, if that makes sense. Contemporaneous is during the same time. Okay, so I could go with either, and I've had relationships with both at the same time. That's what that would look like. Situational is because of a lack of options, right? So maybe you're in like an all-girl boarding school, and so you have a girlfriend because there weren't any boys around. That's kind of like the stereotype there. So much widespread misunderstanding and discrimination and stereotypes of bisexuality, right? What are some stereotypes you can think of people who are bisexual? Can you think of any that pop into your head right off the bat? Yeah. Yeah, they're not capable of monogamy, right? They just cheat on everyone all the time. Yeah.
They're
Okay, that they're only attracted to men. Is that what you said? Okay, yeah.
Guy all of a sudden, like, they're not.
Okay, right, yeah, like it was just a phase,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
no more, like that was it. Okay.
I just like staring at situational homosexuality, and it's like, the more I look at it, the more I realize, like, shouldn't it be situational heterosexuality?
Yeah, it could go either
Like-
way, right?
like-
Yeah. Right, so,
Yeah, like-
okay, so it's situational, right, in a way, like we could go with that. Anyone think of another one? Other stereotypes? Yeah.
Like,
Okay, yeah, you're the exception to the rule, right? Okay,
Yeah,
Got
yeah,
it.
it's like whenever I hear about all like this sort of sexuality stuff, I feel like one very like hilarious kind of joke kind of mentioned in the LGBTQ community regarding bisexuals is that usually that they're uncertain about whether they're
Yeah.
deserving of the bisexual rank, because
Right.
it's like, but what if I'm just in denial or like something like that, but it's like a lot of like unconfidence where it's like
Hmm.
the unconfidence is part of the appeal.
Right, you're just confused, you're just in denial about your true orientation. Did you have one as well, or did I?
Oh, yes. That they're promiscuous.
Yeah, like always, right? Promiscuous, that it's trendy. You're just doing it because it's trendy or you want to like fit in. There's a lot, it's not a real orientation is another one. There are a lot of theorists who believe we're all born bisexual. Like that's a very popular theory, but there's a lot of stereotypes and discrimination here, right? And it oftentimes ends up being kind of an invisible like orientation. And there's discrimination, interestingly, like you'll have like a gay straight alliance or like a gay club, and like bisexuals, it's like you're almost not welcome because you're not really gay, you know what I mean, but you don't fit into the straight population either. So sometimes it becomes this spot where it's almost like invisible, and there's discrimination of like, oh, you're just confused, you're not committing, it's trendy, like all the things that we just talked about. Really big one though is that you're promiscuous. That's a very common one, that you just cheat, you're incapable of committing. So there's a lot of struggles of being specifically in this group as well. A lot of people have a hard time, and it's called biphobia, right? Like people having that like discrimination where you get it from both sides a little bit in this group. Did you have that you read on that? Any like thoughts or comments or anything here? Yeah. Yeah, pick a side. Yeah, they call you a fence sitter, right? Like pick a side of the fence and get on it, right? Like very common, right? It's like, and that whole the I kissed a girl and I liked it song was like such a like anthem for this for a long time, of like that, like it's trendy, right? You're just doing it to be popular or trendy or whatnot. So this is typically absorbed into like that LGBTQ like population, but oftentimes like this group faces like unique pressures and upsets and concerns. And then again, now we get to things like pansexual, asexual. There are other orientations that we don't talk a lot about that also can kind of struggle with some of the similar things. Okay, so that is like chapter 11, right? Again, a lot of like things evolving with this topic. It's something that's constantly coming up. What we'll do when I see you on Wednesday as I said, we'll start chapters 3 and 7. The slides are up for those, but we'll look at communication, right? And like stereotypes of like communication. I have some, I think, fun video clips that connect to that. There are a lot of movies highlighting that topic. And then we'll get into like love and love styles and relationships. I have some fun quizzes for you to take on that one too. So I think kind of a fun unit to look forward to. So I will see you all Wednesday. I hope we get some rain, right? That's what I can talk about. So don't forget to turn in your sheet with your name on it as well, so I can give you credit for the activity. Thank you, thank you. All right, so